Thanks for staying with us. Now, the arms deal has returned to the public domain with the court application seeking to set aside the findings of the Seriti Commission. One of the biggest champions of convening the Seriti inquiry was politician and now Cabinet Minister Patricia de Lille. There was even a file referred to as the de Lille dossier. It contained evidence incriminating high-profile people. We have now on the line live Minister of Public Works, former Mayor of Cape Town, but the whistleblower that everybody remembers from some 20 years ago, Patricia de Lille. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the Right to Know campaign have gone to court and have told the North Gauteng High Court today that the Seriti Commission was a whitewash. Do you agree?
I agree 100% with the Right to Know, and I commend them for taking the action. But I would like them to go further and demand that all the money that we spend on the Seriti Commission that ran into millions of taxpayers' money must be recovered. The Seriti Commission had a predetermined outcome. They had to report to Jacob Zuma every 6 months, and they said for about 2.5 years. Now, and they never even called Zuma once to give evidence to the Seriti Commission. Those of us that were called to come and give evidence, we gave over the evidence that led to the successful prosecution of Shabir Sheikh, of Tony and Geli, and there are still about another 20 people who received discounted cars, but they just discard all the evidence and claim that there was no evidence when all of us produced evidence.
Now, speaking of evidence, details of these luxury German vehicles which were discounted for those high-profile government and ANC officials, some of which you've just mentioned, they've all been dredged up again today through this application. Now, in 2007, you and Judge Willem Heath travelled to Germany, where local prosecutors confirmed that the managing director at the time of Daimler Aerospace had paid an acknowledgement of guilt fine for embezzlement. What do you remember of that time in terms of your reaction to the evidence that you were finding?
Yes, at the time when it became very clear that there was lots of attempts to just sweep everything under the carpet, Judge Willem Heath and myself traveled to Germany on our own cost. We met with the prosecuting authorities there. They gave us a case number of Munich where the company paid this commission of guilt fine. We came back with the information. I wrote to the authorities in Germany. They said they are prepared to give it to South Africa on condition that our NPA head, Wusi Pakoli at the time, must request the information. Wusi Pakoli refused to request the information, and I couldn't take it further because although the proof was there, they were only prepared to hand it over to our prosecuting authority. I also attempted to go for a private prosecution on the same matter, but the NPA then had to make a decision whether they are going to prosecute or not, and it was only then that I could go for the private prosecution. And they never even responded to that. I still have got all of that correspondence between myself and Wusi Pakoli, and they simply just ignored the evidence.
Now, at the time of all these goings on, you spoke at length about how shocked you were, disappointed even, to see entities within the liberation movement like the ANC stoop so quickly to become a haven for corrupt individuals. What do you say now to those who say that you've decided to join some of those individuals as a member of cabinet?
No, that is not related at all. President Cyril Ramaphosa has got the right to appoint any member of the National Assembly to serve in his cabinet. So I am the leader of good and have not joined the ANC. And like everybody will know in this country, I guard my independence with my life. So I was very disappointed at the time when Judge Nicholson asked me in the High Court in Durban when I testified against Shabir Sheikh, why did I do it? I said I did it because I wanted to help government to root out the bad apples within government. And that is still my stance. We must get to the bottom of this arms deal. And I'll be very happy if the court considers the application of right to know to set the Seriti Commission aside, because really, even though they had the evidence, they decided not to act.
Now, before I let you go, I happened to find a speech you gave at Wits University in 2008. It's difficult to believe that was 10 years after this arms deal saga actually got going, when you stood up in Parliament and the De Lille dossier came to light as well. And you were leader of the ID at the time. And in that speech, you spoke quite impassionately, with passion, about the need to get to the bottom of the arms deal. And I quote, "By granting amnesty for arms deal corruption, we will be sending entirely the wrong message to our people. Government will be saying that there is a way out for those who break the law, and it will be a further blow to our fight against the crime and corruption that continue to plague our country." Now, that was in 2008. And what we've seen happen 10 years after that is very much vindication of that exact statement in that speech, isn't it?
Yes, most definitely. And it just shows you that for how many years, almost 20 years, that the arms deal has been plaguing our country. Because the arms deal was a litmus test for government to see how they are going to respond to allegations of corruption. Instead, they opted to protect the corrupt. And that has sent a wrong message out to the country. That's why 20 years later, you see the scourge of corruption has become an epidemic in our country. It's because government failed to act at the time of the arms deal and send out the wrong message that, some people are more equal than others. We are not all equal before the law. If you hold a position of power and you can afford to go on litigating with state money, then you will get off. And today, more than ever before, we have to send that message out that corruption will not be tolerated by anyone in government, because at the time they were shooting the messenger. I had to go to 2 years of hell with death threats, being followed, being monitored. And they were shooting the messenger, and they were not looking at the actual allegations. I'm happy today, at least we see there are some commissions that are open to the public, and everybody can hear these allegations, and they must be tested. But with the arms deal, it was a completely different approach. Government as a whole at the time just covered up the arms deal.
We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and your insight and your memories there, Patricia de Lille, politician, now a new serving member of the cabinet of Cyril Ramaphosa, but also the well-known whistleblower in that arms deal saga.